This is 100 Seasons of BYU football live on BYUtv. We are into hour number 2, and we advance from the post-Lavelle Edwards area into Gary Croton, Bronco Mendenhall, and now the Kalani Sitake era. So much to do, and to help us go through that, we welcome in a couple of guys who really helped BYU football reestablish its brand in the latter part of the Mountain West Conference era before the Cougars went independent. They are Bryan Kehl, great linebacker, and Austin Collie, one of the greats to ever catch the football at BYU. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you tonight?
What's up, Spence?
You got a tough act to follow after Patty Edwards.
Jeez. Do we ever?
Bryan, as you look back, and I want to go to when both of you were recruited, but Bryan, you're a little bit older than Austin. So when did your recruitment begin, and was there ever any other option besides playing football at Brigham Young University?
So that's a good question. Chad was up here. He told a story. My recruitment began when I was 9, and I watched him in 1993 come fight all those Ute players. And that's when the fire was built inside of me. And I said, I want to do that. And so that's really when it started. But I got recruited in high school my junior year by Croton. I was his first recruit, actually. And I always wanted to go to BYU. My brother played there. We went to all the games. I had season tickets. I don't think anybody could have stolen me away from this place. It's just too great, too special.
Same question for you, Austin. Highly recruited guy. Could have gone a number of places. You chose BYU. Why?
Honestly, living in California, all I did was watch Pac-12 football. Right, that's what I wanted. Was what I recruited as. Plan on going to Stanford, and then my brother actually came home off his mission and said, "Come play with me for 1 year." At that point in time, we weren't watching a lot of BYU games just because the schedules weren't working out as well because they were on late night on ESPN. So was always watching football during the day. I was always having to hear though how great Glenn was, right? How great Leon was for my dad, how great Kurt was, and how great those times were. But I was like, no, I'm going Pac-10. But my brother. He said, come play with me for a year. This is going to be a special time. It's going to be a special place. We got something special going on here. And, the minute I got here during the summer to work out with the guys, man, I just felt right at home. Felt the love from everybody. Loved the fact that we all had, that moral compass in common, and knew that it was where I wanted to be for the remainder of the time.
Bryan, you go through a transitionary period at BYU after the guy that recruited you, and you too, Austin, Gary Croton. And you come home, and now Bronco Mendenhall is the head coach, and you're trying to help BYU establish another national footprint after 3 consecutive losing seasons. And I remember distinctly after, I think it was a win in November of 2005, and you said, BYU football is back. And you meant it, and then you backed it up. Why did you feel so strongly in that moment that Cougar football was back after some struggles?
So, like I said, I grew up watching all the greatness. And I came here in 2002, and the wheels just fell off. And I was glad to be on my mission and to miss 2003 and 2004. Those are good seasons to be gone. And I was talking to some guys last night about that and the dark years. And when I remember my dad sent me a newspaper clipping on my mission of the new old uniforms that Bronco was bringing back. And I just remember opening that as a missionary and getting goosebumps and just thinking about all those times, all those bowl games, just all the greatness. And it was just everything that I wanted to do was to bring that back. And good players like Austin helped that happen.
Spence, have you ever heard of a player or a team having a player and the team's #1 fan in the locker room at the same time?
I feel like you're leading me somewhere, Austin.
Well, that's kind of what we were dealing with, right? We'd get the fan viewpoint from Ryan come Mondays after the game, right? And then we'd get Bryan as a player. But, having guys like Bryan on the team, it was easy to buy in, right? Because of his leadership and seeing what it meant to him just trickled down to every single player in the locker room.
Bryan, it's one thing to get BYU back to a bowl game, but then in 2006, and Austin's on his mission, BYU returns to Mountain West Conference championship form, and then you beat up on Oregon in the Vegas Bowl. You go 11-2. BYU finishes the season number 16. It was incredible. What did it take to get that next level from, okay, we're back in a bowl game, but now we're nationally respected?
Honestly, I think one of the greatest things that Bronco did was bring back the non-football principles of excellence, of work ethic, of character, of discipline. I mentioned that 2002 season where the wheels fell off. That team was super talented. I was a true freshman. That team was super talented. Tons of guys on that team played in the NFL. We had a losing season. We didn't have those intangibles. And that's, I think, Bronco did a lot of great things, and honestly, that's one of the greatest things I think he did, was bring back, it's the non-football things, it's the character, it's the work ethic, it's the discipline, it's the camaraderie, it's the band of brothers, and it's those things combined with the talent that was there that we're able to bring back. And that, I think that's, listening to these OGs out here talk about Lavelle, that's what Lavelle embodied, it's the non-football things. And I think if anything that he did, that's probably the best.
Austin, you returned from your mission and you left in 2004 under Gary Croton. You come back and you see Bronco Mendenhall now a few years established into his coaching tenure. What was the biggest difference you immediately noticed as a player?
Everything, including Coach Mendenhall. I don't know if you know, Coach Mendenhall was a defensive coordinator, but was way different when I got back. But no, again, it was just like Bryan said, man, all the things that BYU was known for, all the things that, you know, I grew up hearing about, and the way that Lavelle would, you know, the way he saw his players, the way he saw his team, the way he made such an effort on team culture, team cohesion. I mean, Bronco was a master at that, man. I mean, we all bought in, everybody bought in. And at that time, that's exactly what we needed, right? Was just one team unit working towards the same goal.
Both of you played and were successful in the National Football League, and there had been a little bit of a drop-off, but you two were a part of a contingent of players in the Bronco Mendenhall era that made it to the NFL. So how did those principles that you brought up, Bryan, translate to NFL football?
Yeah, it was a great preparation. And I said this all the time. I don't know that there's a better place to prepare you for those principles of being a professional, being responsible, being on time. You know, Bronco would stand outside there with his clock, and in the NFL you get fined if you don't show up on time. And it's all the little things that you learn to do the right way here. I remember when I was a rookie, everybody was so surprised at me being confident and being able to talk to people and looking them in the eye and shaking their hand. And that's this place. That's this place, and going on a mission and doing the things that BYU prepares you, and all of that. Just, I didn't have the success that he did, but it helped me have success. So
it was little.
Okay, Austin, you go to the Indianapolis
His quarterback did him dirty. His quarterback threw one bad pass. Otherwise, there's a whole different story. But he had a lot of success.
Okay, Austin, you and I have talked offline about this in recent trips down to media days for the Big 12 and whatnot, but you talked about the similarities of just the team and the camaraderie that BYU enjoyed, and then you saw that with the Indianapolis Colts. What did you see there that made you feel like, oh yeah, this is how a winning culture looks in the NFL?
Yeah, I'm a big advocate on doing the things, and I think this is one of the things that Coach Mendenhall did a phenomenal job at as well, is not only doing things as a team on the field, but doing them off the field as well, right? Because I think that's just as important, if not more important, in building, like I said, that continuity in the team, right? Like building a trust, not only with the guy next to you, but the guy on the opposite side of the ball fighting for you, right? And I think through those activities and through the things that we did here at BYU, my boys were watching clips the other day, and I was pointing out all the players, right? I mean, now they're getting to the age where they're like wanting to know more about college football. They're loving football. And a lot of the guys I'm pointing out are guys that they already know because I'm still good friends with them, right? We still have that relationship. Guys like Bryan, guys like Max, guys like Dennis, guys like Harv. And it was only because of that emphasis put on, hey, having each other's back. Again, as cliche as it sounds, like that band of brother mentality is really what kind of harvested that team unity and that team culture. And it was no different when I got to the league, right? Like that was run by Peyton. I'm sure Rob can attest to this, man. Like that guy made sure that we were doing things off the field all the time, and it was always showing up on the field. And I still have a relationship with all those guys, right? I mean, when you build that level of friendship and you're going to battle every single day with them to get better, and you're all working towards the same goal, and you don't have a person working on the side on their own individual, with their own individual expectations, but as a unit, man, it's something special. And their relationships that you build within that kind of special environment, they last forever, right? Which is, something that I'm sure all these players can attest to because they've all been on great teams.
Well, these things you're talking about definitely helped you develop this winning culture specifically at home. Bryan, correct me if I'm wrong, 2006 and 2007, you did not lose a football game at LaVell Edwards Stadium. Austin, in 2007 and 2008, you did not lose a game in LaVell Edwards Stadium. What was it about protecting LaVell Edwards Stadium that mattered so much to you, Bryan?
Yeah, well, it goes back to that story with Chad. It just made me laugh. I was sitting back there, and he said that, and I remember seeing that. I was 9 years old, and we came to the games. We had season tickets. I'm a super fan. Like he said.
Bryan wrote the 100 Years book. Duff did not write it. Bryan wrote it. Bryan was in the background digging through all the archive. I mean, it was coming off the top of his head.
I went to all those games. I went to the games. I was in the stadium. So it was growing up and seeing that as a kid and wanting to be a part of it. And then it was, like I said, it was the privilege of my life to be a part of it. And so, I wasn't going to let anybody come in there and mess up. I was so mad when I was 9 years old. I didn't want anybody to do that to us. So,
awesome. What would you add to that, protecting LaVell Edwards Stadium?
I don't know. It's just different, man. And going on the road with you and listening to all these coaches, LaVell Edwards is just a different place, and it does get rowdy, and it's crazy that they're all sober, getting that rowdy, right? But the passion you can tell from the fans, man, how much they love football, and whether you're winning or losing, they show up. That's a great thing, right? About the BYU nation, about the Cougar nation, they show up, and it's just due to the success that all these guys that came up here and talked to, and what the expectation, right, that they put on this program because they were all so great, right? That's something that I didn't understand when I was younger, even though I had my dad in my ear telling me I didn't want to listen to him. But, the more and more saturated I got into the BYU environment, the more I got to know these guys and then hear their stories and watch their highlights and stuff. It's like, golly, dude, there's some freaking good, great players, right? Great players that made this place what it is. And, you can just feel that kind of aura. Is that what the kids are saying nowadays, aura?
Aura,
yeah. You can feel that aura just coming in the stadium, man. You can feel that energy.
I think they call it the Riz, Austin.
I think that's different, Spence. Where are you getting your information from?
I got to check my sources, apparently.
You might need to.
Hey, it's great to have two of the best to ever play in the Mountain West and two of the best to ever play at BYU, Austin Collie and Bryan Kehl.